On this evening, we are responding, we're on scene of a police-involved shooting involving New Orleans Police Department and the Louisiana State Police. At approximately 6:43 p.m., New Orleans police officers were conducting a follow-up investigation of a couple of armed robberies that occurred in the 6th District. Our detectives identified a person of interest at the intersection of Canal and Elk Street. They then contacted uniformed officers to assist with engaging this individual for questioning. At that time, these officers made the scene. The uniformed officers attempted to engage the individual for questioning. At that time, the individual then pulled their weapon out and began firing at our uniformed officers. One of the uniformed officers, as well as one of the detectives, were able to return fire at the individual, causing a gunfire exchange between the two parties. 5 individual innocent bystanders were struck during this gunfire exchange. All are in stable condition, with the exception of one is in critical condition and is in surgery at this time. The gunfire continued down Elk Street towards Tulane Avenue. Upon arriving on Tulane Avenue, Louisiana State Police officer also responding to these officer in danger call was then fired upon by this same individual. Louisiana State Police officer then returned fire, at which time the individual fell to the ground. The officers then removed the weapon from the individual. The individual was then transported to University Hospital, where he expired at that time. Right now, we're working a joint investigation with our force investigation team and the Louisiana State Police. On scene right now, we have our federal monitors. The FBI has been notified, as well as the independent monitor is on scene conducting their investigation. This will be a joint investigation throughout this scene, throughout this process, and with usual protocol or normal protocol, our officers will be on desk duty until further notice, until this process is over.
Chief,
questions?
When was the armed robbery?
We had 2 armed robberies that occurred in the 6th District on last week, one in the 1700 block of Clio and the other at the intersection of Carondelet and Josephine.
So when you say they were doing a follow-up, what does that mean?
They were following, as detectives do their investigation, they're following up on any information that they may receive, and following up on that information, they were able to identify a person of interest in this investigation.
And was he on the street or in a building on Elk Place? Where was
He was on the street at the intersection of Canal and Elk Street.
So how is an RTA bus involved?
RTA bus was at the bus stop. This occurred at a bus stop, a near bus stop at that intersection.
Was anyone in the bus hit?
No one in the bus was struck.
How many people, including the armed robbery suspect?
5 individuals, again, 5 individuals were struck outside of also the deceased subject that exchanged gunfire with the officers. So in total, 6.
Sorry, two of your NOPD officers, 1 state police officer?
2 NOPD officers and 1 state police officer.
Was there any involvement by Tulane PD?
No, the only involvement Tulane police did was assist with securing the scene as it escalated out to Tulane Avenue.
The name of the suspect?
We have no information on the suspect at this time.
White, black, male, female?
Cannot confirm at this time.
What are the ages of the
Were
victims?
the victims were all the innocent victims at the bus stop?
Yes. Colonel Reeves, want to say anything?
Our thoughts and prayers go out to the innocent victims that were struck during this unfortunate, sad incident. So Governor John Bell Edwards is aware of the situation. He's monitoring, and he lifts up his prayers and his wife's prayers for the families.
What are the streets shut down downtown, and when can we expect them to be reopened?
Upon completion of processing the scene, all streets will be open. Right now, we're conducting a thorough investigation in which we have to collect evidence, video footage, anything that we can to help further this investigation.
Chief, the 5 innocent bystanders, were they shot by your officers or by the suspect?
It is too early in the investigation to make that determination as to who was struck by any bullets at that time.
Is there a protocol for chasing an armed robber at 6:45 near a bus stop?
The biggest thing is that we need to think about is that these officers were fired upon first. So to preserve life, not just their life, but the public's life, they have to return fire. They have to respond to calls like this, in that manner.
What are the age ranges of the victims?
Right now, we don't have any age. I don't have any information on the victims with regards to age or anything like that. We don't want to give anything like that.
Chief, we were told that there was we were told there was a vehicle accident involving an officer on the
Yes.
What's the status of that officer?
So, officers, of course, when something like this occurs, our officers across the city are then notified. Officer responding to this officer in need of assistance call was responding. He was involved in a car accident on Napoleon while headed this way. As such, he was involved in an accident and transported to the hospital due to the nature of the accident.
How is he?
He's in stable condition. He's fine.
Mayor Cantrell, we're getting very close to airtime. Would you like to, excuse me, Chief, would you like to speak to us about what's happened here? Very busy Canal Street, Tourist Central.
Absolutely, a pretty busy weekend. What I will say at this time is just really thinking about the innocent bystanders who were at the bus stop, including our RTA, a bus driver who was shucking up big time.
He was not shot.
She was not.
She was not.
And Mayor, also, we've got Mardi Gras coming up. There was already a deadly shooting after a second line parade earlier today where someone was shot in the head. Can you speak to the fact that you've got all this violence going on in the city right now?
Well, it was a pretty tumultuous weekend that started on Friday evening, in particular on Louisiana Avenue Parkway, the street that I live on. So we're all impacted. It matters, and we're going to do what we do best in terms of hosting these large-scale events in our city. So we're prepared, but these things do happen, and we are going to do everything possible to prevent them from happening in the future.
What would you say to all the people around the world who are coming here? How would you reassure them or not? What would you say to them?
Well, what I will say to them is that New Orleans Police Department, our officers, are absolutely boots on the ground, but they are the world's greatest experts on crowd control and managing large-scale events, as has been demonstrated for decades. And so we will do our job. They will continue to do theirs, and we are prepared for Mardi Gras.
Any more questions? Olivia, do you have a question? Chief, were any of the victims children by chance?
To our knowledge right now, they are all adults. And what I want to do in closing is, first again, express our sorrow, with innocent bystanders being struck in something like this. It's very unfortunate, but our officers doing what they're trained to do, had to respond quickly, and they responded in the way in which they are trained to do, and we had to take action that unfortunately led to the expiration of one of our citizens. This is something that we have to do. It's something that these officers are going to have to live with, but they are trained to do this, and they will continue to do what we do best and what we know how to do best. Just like we had to exercise on Friday with regards to crowd control and dealing with large crowds, these are part of the things in which we have to train to deal with.
Yeah, your shoot, don't shoot scenarios, the training for this, again, the police officers would not stop firing at the suspect because he was continuing to fire at them?
Well, through our training, of course, if there's an innocent bystander in our line of fire, we're going to make sure we're not going to strike that innocent bystander, but we will do our best to eliminate that threat at that time.
But perhaps it was a cop bullet or two that struck some of these people.
Again, it is too early in the investigation to determine if it was an officer's bullet or the expired person's bullet.